Good morning. Friendship, truth, and love. It's good to gather this morning and remember a life dedicated to these core virtues. And it is good to gather to remember the legacy of commitment to this region and this campus and this fraternal organization. It is good to gather and remember a life dedicated to the principle that we can shape and change our world by investing in our communities. But most of all, it is good to gather and remember Tom Deans and his life well lived. A husband, a mentor, an advocate, a brother, a leader, and friend. It is good to be together, and you are all welcome here. We owe deep thanks to Harley Bennett for all his work pulling this service, this moment, this occasion together, and we'll turn it over to him now for our opening prayer. Harley.
Good morning. I'd like to add my words of welcome to Tom's wife, Gail, and friends and family who have made time to attend this service this morning and celebrate the long and productive life and the 66 years plus of service that Tom Deans gave to our fraternity. I'd also like to welcome our organist, David Cover, who was the Bucknell Chapel organist since 1978. In fact, he played at the memorial service for Brother Mel Woodward 29 years ago at this very place in 1993. We thank you for that moving music in the beginning. Next, we'd like to welcome our guest bagpiper, Gus Person, who has been playing at special events for over 40 years. Recently, he just played a few weeks ago at Bucknell's convocation. We all know that Tom was very proud of his Scottish heritage, and that's reflected in the flowers here this morning. In fact, bagpipes were played at Tom's 80th birthday party and at his funeral last November. So thank you both for this incredible sound of Amazing Grace by bagpipe and organ together. I know Tom is happily looking down on us during that beautiful rendition. So together we have gathered together to celebrate the life of our brother, family member, and friend, Tom. May he smile as he looks down upon us today. Let us pray. Dear God, we thank you for Tom, for all of our dear and faithful dead who have gone before us, and whose love is in heaven making the distant heavens a home for us, and their truth and beauty are even now in our hearts. One by one, thou dost gather the scattered families out of the earthly light into their heavenly glory. From the distractions, strife, and weariness of our time to the peace of eternity, we thank thee for the labors and joys of these mortal years. We thank thee for our deep sense of the mysteries that lie beyond our dust, and for the eye of faith which thou hast opened for all who believe. Today, we especially thank thee for all that Tom has been to each of us, and grant us the will and the determination to carry out the beliefs which Tom believed in so passionately. May we all practice in our daily lives our fraternity's motto of friendship, love, and truth. And may we all remember all of the people down south who are suffering from the storm. Please be with them and help them in their recovery. May we live together in thy faith and love, and in the hope which is full of mortality. Amen. Now, the first hymn is a very special hymn to us. It's to the music of Phi Lambda, and it's in the hymnal in 451, but there are special words which are in the insert in your bulletin, and it's called "This Is My Song." You may be seated. Those words get me every time. It is my great honor and pleasure to introduce Dr. Gary Soika, President Emeritus of Bucknell. Dr. Soika served as president of Bucknell from 1985 to 1995. But his first love was teaching. He was a celebrated professor of biology, and he was chairman of the biology department at Indiana University before he came here. Also, Dr. Soika is enshrined in the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame. But what we remember him for the most is that he was a good friend to the fraternity system at Bucknell. He was president at a time when there was a large portion of the Bucknell faculty who wanted to totally eliminate the fraternity system at Bucknell. And he was very instrumental in helping us successfully fight those battles. Please welcome to our celebration of Tom's life, Dr. Soika.
Harley, thank you. Mrs. Deans, members of Tom's fraternity, this is an important day. This is our homecoming, right? It's a quintessential American residential college phenomenon that the graduates come back, and they come back to what? To alma mater.
Speak into the microphone.
Am I having trouble being heard? Okay. Usually I'm not, there's no problem hearing me. I was blessed with something called command voice when I was a child. But in any case, do take this special day to heart. You are welcome in the arms of your kindly mother. We hope you will come back every year that you can, and that you will always think of this place as an aspect of your home. You know that universities of this kind have been struggling since the Middle Ages, trying to figure out what to teach and how to teach it, what to leave in and what to leave out. And that's no different today. We have the Dean of Students with us. She is fully aware of the undercurrent of tension about the various colleges now on this campus: the College of Arts and Sciences, the College of Engineering, the College of Management, and the argument about where is the core of the university. Is it a place where one learns one's profession and one's trade, or is it a place where one learns how to live? I think a great case can be made for both points of view, and hence I expect this struggle to continue for the rest of our lives, and so be it. It's probably good. It keeps everyone sharp. But at the center of those core values in a College of Arts and Sciences, one name always pops up. You can't think about arts and sciences without someone mentioning the Bard of Avon, William Shakespeare. And as a young man, I actually encountered a book and I lost it somehow, and I can't find it, and Amazon doesn't seem to have it. Something called Shakespeare for All Occasions. Now, if that doesn't say it all, I don't know what does. And think about why we are here today. We're here to pay honor to a man, to remember that man, and Shakespeare did say something about that. But I want you to listen to the words of Mark Antony, because they should create a dissonance for you. Not a comfort, but a discomfort. Because you probably remember the scene. Caesar has been murdered. The last death blow was handed in by none other than his friend Brutus. And his other friend and supporter, Mark Antony, a young man, faces the mob on the steps of the Senate where people were proclaiming that the tyrant was dead and Rome was free. And when Antony went to speak, he was shouted down. And someone finally said, "No, no, let him talk." And what did he say? He looked out, and he said something you all know. You can say it in your mind. You know where I'm going. "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears, for I come not to praise Caesar, but to bury him. For the good that men do is oft interred with their bones, while the evil lives after them." One can draw several conclusions from that. One, thank heaven, I kept my day job and didn't try to become a Shakespearean actor. You got to be able to remember the lines. Secondly, Shakespeare and Mark Antony obviously never met Tom Deans. But the scholars would say, no, Antony was being sarcastic to the bone. He may have said that the good a man does is interred with his bones, but the evil lives after him, and that was ultimate sarcasm. He meant it should be turned over. And you know that it should be turned over. Tom Deans was a man. It's not possible for many of us to use the words evil and Tom Deans in the same sentence, but we know what Shakespeare meant. And I'm sure in his lifetime, there were probably a few things Tom wished he'd done that he didn't. And there were maybe a few things he did that he wished he hadn't. And there were probably a couple of handfuls of things that he did when he wished maybe he'd have put a little different spin on it or treated it in a slightly different way. But just a few months ago, we buried Tom, and those trivial things have already been expunged from our collective memory. Gone. So what of the good that will live after him? You men have done one very important thing. Yes, you put that house on the hill. It was there. We know what it stood for, and you put his name on it. That was an extraordinary act, and it was an act of caring, and it was an act of recognition for who he was and what he did and how he was a man ahead of his time, hoping that others would follow. But that's a building, and your responsibilities are not over. I think about this because somebody put my name on a building over here, and I know about names on buildings. And you do too if you think about it. You put Tom Dean's name up there because you remember him, or you know well somebody who did. And what he accomplished and what he did to mold who you are was alive and vibrant. But there will come a time when people who actually knew Tom but go in that house won't have the advantage that you have. And I would just ask you to think about this campus. Who knows about Vedder? Who knows about Trax? Who knows about Cress? This house always had a great academic reputation, so I imagine one or two of you, a few times a year, wandered into Ellen Clark Bertrand Library. Who was she? Why is her name on that building? And like it or not, we will come to that point. And beyond that point, for those of you that are engineers, you'll remember that time and the second law of thermodynamics will do its darndest. And there will be a time when bricks will turn to sand, when nails will rust, when wood will warp and rot, and buildings are either forgotten or replaced. It happens. Does that mean the good that Tom Deans, we hope, will live after him? I hope not. That's a building. It has a finite life. But the responsibility rests with you. Those of you who knew him had to have been changed by his steadfast and firm commitment, not just a tolerance and acceptance, but a true belief in those words in the hymn we all sang, that we are one family of humankind, men and women of many different hues and many different beliefs, but we are all biologically and philosophically members of a single family. And it's fitting that Tom would take this action, that he would be a mentor and a role model through something that we call a fraternity. Fraternity has come to mean something different on many college campuses. It has to do with picking your friends and who you want to have a good time with, maybe even who you want to have a beer with now and then, and so on. But fraternity is about true brotherhood. And that means that you stand by, you support, you care about, you sacrifice for your brothers and their welfare. When they are beset by the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as our friend Shakespeare would again say, and they are laid low, that's when a brother steps forward. That's when a brother puts his arm around the other. And it's more important than the beers you had together or the good times you had on a Friday or Thursday night. It's about brotherhood. And Tom Deans is that role model. He has, I'm sure, affected every one of you, and those who didn't have the benefit of knowing him personally know personally others who did. But that time will pass, and what you need to remember and what you have as a true responsibility is that when you step out these doors today, you are part of the good that will live after Tom Deans, and it is your responsibility to do as he did, to spread that word, to stand what he stood for, and to make this a better world.
Thank you very much, Dr. Soika. I believe last year you used the words fitting and proper.
Correct.
And you said that our celebration last year in naming the house after Tom was fitting and proper. Well, I'd like to say that your words today were also fitting and proper. So thank you again very much. And I want to make a special word of welcome to the new members of the fraternity. This is going to be one of your first big events in your fraternity life. You're going to hear some stories that you've never heard before. But at the end of today, if there's any doubts in your mind as to whether you have made the right decision in joining this fraternity, I think those doubts will be erased. So we definitely welcome you as new members. And now we're going to have a scripture reading from Ned Matrovich. Am I saying that properly?
'23rd Psalm, the Divine Shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long.
Thank you, Ned. And now we're going to have some words from Ben Snook. Ben, are you here? Excuse me. I'm sorry? Okay. All right. So this is Guillermo. Guillermo is the president of the fraternity at this time. And he's worked very closely with Tom in the past year of his life. And I'm sure he would tell you that Tom never lost focus or dedication to our fraternity and our ideals.
So this is from Ben Snook, who is last year's president, who worked very close with Tom for an entire year until his passing. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Ben Snook. I graduated this past May and was the alpha here at PLT a year ago. I was really excited when Harley asked if I would say a few words here today. Tom passed last during my term as alpha. We had worked together for close to a year, which certainly pales in comparison to the duration many of you knew him. Despite this, Tom had a tremendous impact on myself personally and on our chapter during that period. We were in essentially constant contact with sometimes several phone calls a week during busy times. As you will certainly hear today, the chapter meant the world to Tom, and we thrived for years in large part to his dedication. For anyone that knew him, it should come as no surprise that Tom continued to pour his heart and soul into our chapter, despite failing health until he passed. Nearly 1 year ago exactly, we had a ceremony to honor Tom and rename our chapter house after him, a decision that was passed with resounding enthusiasm from our board at the time. That day was really special. Tom's friends and family, our chapter, past and present, gathered to celebrate Tom's legacy and all that he had accomplished. From someone on the outside looking in, it may seem that naming our chapter house after just one person is fairly extreme. But if you knew anything about Phi Lambda Theta, you would know that this ceremony is long overdue. Tom, in many cases, Tom alone guided this fraternity for years. A few examples come to mind of Tom's dedication to our chapter. One in particularly was a relatively dark time during the pandemic when COVID ran through our chapter house like a wildfire. At one point, nearly 30 of us were isolated in the hotel. But in the days where the situation was rapidly devolving, Tom would call daily for updates. Ben, how's it looking today? He would ask. It was never fun to deliver this news. Tom, we got a few more positives. We're up to 12, 14, 20, whatever it was at that time. I could always hear his deep sigh after that. His ensuing questions paid no mind to the politics of how we appeared outwardly for this outbreak. He wanted to know how everyone was doing, mentally and physically. It was evident that he genuinely did care and was distressed to hear about each additional brother who had fallen ill, many of them whom he had never met. In contrast, during that same time, our clever chapter came up with a method of delivering home-cooked meals from Sarah and Heidi to our hotel rooms. I cannot explain how amazing this was. The day I relayed our new system to Tom, I could hear him nearly jump out of his seat. He was so excited, surprised, and proud. He shared in our victories as a group and in our defeats. But by no means do I mean to paint Tom as a bystander to our chapter's progress. In our many phone calls, Tom would come prepared with questions, and we did not leave until he had answers. Is the newsletter on time? What is on the menu for senior dinner? How did the first, second, third round of rush go? While he was not always visible towards the end, Tom was ever present in every big decision made within those walls. The mission of Chi-Phi is to build better men. Tom spent his entire life doing this. He created and fostered an environment where men from any number of backgrounds could come together and learn. I'm really grateful to have known Tom while he was here with us. But truthfully, his legacy will last for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Guillermo. Really appreciate that. Now, the next person to speak is Al Osgood, but he's not here because he came down with COVID on Wednesday. So I just want to recognize Al, and sorry we can't hear what he had to say. But anyway, Al graduated in 1988. He was a member of the fraternity while we were going through the process of selecting a national fraternity with which to affiliate. We joined the Chi-Phi National in 1984. Al has been a major force in the Alumni Association ever since, and he's been our incredible treasurer for over 33 years. He's helped keep us on the financial path of stability, and we have him to thank for that. And I just wonder, without somebody like Al, would we still have the ownership of this fraternity house? Because it is all dependent on finances, and Al made it happen. Our next speaker is Dave Campolongo, who graduated in 2001. Dave has been extremely helpful in maintaining our physical plant, our beloved house on the hill. Living locally for many years, Dave had a lot of contact with Tom and Gail, and he got to know them really well. So here is Dave.
Thank you, Harley. Public speaking is not my strong suit, but it's a real honor to be part of this celebration of life for Tom. And when I told Harley that I'd be reminiscing about how Tom affected my life, he said that we will never really know how many people Tom's life affected, often in very positive ways. I got to know Tom when I was Epsilon for the house back in 2000, and this was a position that I stayed in for about 2 years because I enjoyed doing home improvement projects and watching this old house, and it was a great distraction from studying. As Epsilon, I interacted with Tom multiple times a week, often calling him to ask for funding or permission to proceed with one project or another. And he eventually became a mentor and a part-time employer of me. Like any good mentor or boss, he cultivated my interests into talents and gave guidance that has steered my life to this day. One of the ways he did this was by teaching and providing opportunities, and I'll give some humorous examples. Early on, he hired me to refinish interior shutters in his office building. I don't know if many of you has seen where his office was, but it was the whole third floor of a meticulously restored Queen Anne mansion in Milton, and with other businesses on the other floors. And doing this work led to me being invited to train some prison inmates who were part of a pre-release program. They were working on a house rehabilitation project that Tom was managing in the town of Montgomery, just a few miles up the river. Whenever I worked with Tom, He would be sure to teach me things about architecture, historic buildings, antiques, local history, all the things he loved. And he was always careful to tell me about the projects he was currently working on, and often asked my opinion on things, which really made me feel vital and helpful. Another time Tom taught me was when he talked me into painting part of the outside of his house. This was not something I really wanted to do, and I only got about a quarter of the house done, but Tom took the time to work with me, and even, I think he was in his early 70s at that point, he would come home and climb the 40-foot ladder and make sure I was sanding everything smooth. And I remember one time he did that, he must have caught his pants on the ladder and he tore off the pocket. And then he said, Gail bought these at Penny's, they're cheap pants. After graduating, I not only worked locally as an engineer, but also joined Tom with a group of investors who were rehabilitating or rehabbing a commercial property in downtown Milton. And this was one of the many buildings that Tom was involved with. Through this, I learned that I really liked property management, but that I didn't want to personally be a landlord. And eventually, this led to me switching out from what I was doing in process engineering and going back to school, doing a master's and studying facilities management, and that's what I do to this day. Another thing which Tom was made him a good mentor was that he provided room to fail and grow while remaining upbeat and positive. He did this when I spilled a gallon of paint, a whole gallon, on the carpet in the downstairs hall, when I cracked the cast iron boiler in one of his apartment buildings while trying to fix it, and my favorite was when I decided to rent a sprayer and paint the entire basement ceiling silver. I thought it was going to be a really stunning look for our Disco Fest party. Tom disagreed and calmly told me to repaint it. His positive outlook was really tested when one of his buildings in Milton was severely damaged by fire, and when the fraternity decided to close and recolonize in the mid-2000s. These were times I wanted to walk away, but he had a way of building a person back up and keeping you involved, sometimes with a lot of praise, so that you could keep growing and becoming the person or the brother that you were meant to be. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Dave. I knew I would hear more stories today that I never heard before, and that was one of them. And I've already introduced Guillermo to you, so without further ado, we'll now hear from Guillermo and his comments about Tom.
Hi, I'm Guillermo. I just spoke, but I'm here to speak a little more about my experience with Tom. I personally didn't meet Tom too many times, as I was a little younger within the organization, but from the time I spent, he really left an impact on a lot of us that are currently in our chapter, that I think we every day think about and focus on moving forward, and that is about diversity. Tom would come to our chapter once a year before recruitment started to let us know about the important values that our chapter holds and what we should focus on moving forward. And to me, that sticks with me for life and to take on every day. And although I didn't get to meet him personally as much as I would have loved to, I truly aspired to be like him one day, and it is one of the main reasons why I ran for president, because I want people to look up to me as people look up to Tom. All the stories hearing from him, he sounds like the ideal person and how all of us should aspire to be. And As much as we miss him today, we will cherish all his memories and his legacy and continue moving forward with all he wanted us to do. So, thank you.
Now, we're going to hear another piece from David Cover, and enjoy the organ music. That was beautiful. Thank you very much, David. And now we're going to do one more hymn. It's called Eternal Father, the Navy hymn. We'll sing verses 1 and 4. And it's hymn number 74 if you would like to follow along in your hymnal. Thank you. You may be seated. 98 years ago, Phi Lambda Theta fraternity was founded at Bucknell. After World War II, veterans came back to college under the GI Bill. 3 men, 1 white, 1 black, and 1 Jew, found it impossible to join the same fraternity. They decided to start their own. Then they connected with men from the pre-World War II group and realized that they had some much in common, and they decided to merge. This was in the late 1940s. This group became the first interracial, non-sectarian fraternity at Bucknell, and one of the first in the country. Shortly thereafter, a young man from Lewisburg found out about this fraternity. After checking them out, this man, Tom Deans, joined that fraternity. That was the beginning of our story. And again, this story probably nobody in this room knows except my wife and Gail. So in the late 1970s, late 1960s, it was the time of the Vietnam War. And the fraternity was just totally changed. They were not accepting their responsibility, and they were not having meetings. They were not collecting dues. They were not paying bills, and things went downhill very fast. So we decided we had to close the chapter. Tom said in his speech last year that if that's the way you want to run your fraternity, that's fine, but you're not going to do it in our house, because that's not the way we do business. So we closed the chapter house and threw the fraternity brothers out. Sorry, I lost my place. Of course, we alumni were very disappointed to have to close our fraternity. But who was the first person to say, we have to rebuild? Of course, it was Tom Deans. Many of us wondered how a bunch of old fogey alumni could possibly rush a bunch of college kids. But of course, Tom had an amazing plan. At the time, our house was at 203 South 3rd Street, but we had always dreamed of building a house on the hill. Tom set about to arrange with the university to lease a piece of land with a 50-year lease. How he got the university to lease a piece of land to a group that did not have an active chapter, I'll never know. But somehow he pulled it off. We didn't have much money either, so Tom launched a fund drive. At the same time, we organized various weekends to hold rush parties for freshmen. We offered 2 carrots as an incentive to join. First, we promised them a brand new fraternity house on the hill. Second, we were offering them a ground floor opportunity to start their own, a ground floor opportunity to start their new fraternity. We hired an architect, and alumnus Mel Woodward, who lived in Lewisburg at the time, volunteered to become the general contractor. We built the house on a shoestring budget. Many alumni contributed gifts in kind. One brother, who owned a paint business, contributed all the paint. Another brother, who owned a landscaping business, contributed all the landscaping. And finally, Mel and his two brothers had a family metal manufacturing business in Columbus, Ohio. Mel and his two brothers manufactured the metal staircases which are in the house today. They built this heavy steel stairways in sections, trucked it to Lewisburg, and installed them in the house. They are still as good today as the day they were installed. In early 1974, we laid the cornerstone of the house and moved into an unfinished but livable house later that year. To this day, I don't know how we pulled all of this off, but with Tom's encouragement and determination and a lot of hard work from many alumni, we did it. In about 6 years, we went from no fraternity members and no fraternity house to become a fully functional fraternity with about 25 members at that time. If this wasn't a series of major miracles, I don't know what is. Without Tom, this never would have happened. Tom's next vision was that we needed to be affiliated with a quality national fraternity. We spent about 5 years looking for a new fraternity. We had applications from about 50 fraternities who wanted us. So our challenge was to narrow it down. After a series of meetings over a period of years, we narrowed it down to 5 prospects whom we would interview. Chi Phi was one of those, and obviously we selected them. So only 10 years after we had moved into our new house, we affiliated with the Chi Phi fraternity. We became the Phi Lambda Theta chapter of the Chi Phi fraternity. Again, this was a Herculean effort, driven and organized by Tom. Without Tom, again, this never would have happened. But once we joined the National, Tom devoted as much energy to the National as he did to our local fraternity. He became very active in national affairs, and he became involved in setting up an accreditation process where the various members, chapters of the fraternity around the country would compete with each other as to which one was the best fraternity chapter. Just this last summer, at the Chi Phi National Congress in Philadelphia, Tom was recognized for all of this hard work. He was given the Distinguished Service Award, and also they created the Thomas R. Dean's Award for accreditation. This was awarded posthumously to Tom and presented to Gail, who was personally at the Congress. So this shows that even the National recognized all of his contributions and service to the National as well as to the local. Okay, as I alluded to before, Tom was very proud of his Scottish heritage. We're going to welcome back our guest bagpiper, Gus. And I don't know, David, are you going to play along with him or not? Anyway, we'll all be surprised. I'm sure it'll be great. Okay, that was just beautiful. Now we're going to hear from a senior active chapter member, Evan Gander, who's going to give the fraternity prayer.
Almighty Father, who dost vouchsafe to direct those who acknowledge Thee in all their ways, look, we beseech Thee with favor upon our fraternity. Make it a blessing and a benefit to all its members. Deliver us from those evils to which we may be at any time exposed. Grant us the light of Thy truth and the illumination of Thy Spirit, and that we may always do that which is acceptable in Thy sight. Unite us in the bonds of love. Keep us in the charity with all mankind. Incline our hearts to walk humbly before Thee, and help us to acquit ourselves in this life, that we may dwell with Thee in life everlasting. Amen.
Let's say one more round of thanks to Harley for all his organizational efforts in bringing us together for this important moment to be together, shall we? As you go without these walls, may you breathe out some of your sorrow and your care, and breathe in the legacy and memory of our friend Tom. And take with you hope and friendship and love and truth. And as you go, may God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God look upon you with favor and grant you peace. Amen. Please share a sign of that peace with one another as you go.
Thank you again. I realize we're running a little late, but I want to call your attention to two things. First of all, on page 3 of the program, there's a link to last year's celebration where we named the fraternity house after Tom. That link is still up, and anybody who wants to rewatch it or for the first time, it's still there. And now we have, any of you who have to leave can do so quietly, but if not, I'd love to have you stay. Gus has one more Scottish piece he's going to play for us, and then David will finish with a postlude of my favorite organ piece, and if you stay, it'll knock your socks off. So anyway, Gus, you want to introduce this piece for us?
Yes. I have a command voice, so I don't think I need to use it. The tune I'm about to play is at least 500 years old. The title of the tune is The Flowers of the Forest. It was composed after the Battle of Flodden Field in 1513. And at that battle, King James IV of Scotland and his army were opposed to an English army in the north of England, really just in the border area. Well, it was such a horrendous and bloody battle that King James, about 10,000 of his soldiers, and most of the Scottish nobility were killed. So the title of the tune, The Flowers of the Forest, refers to the Scottish nobility, the chivalry, the flowers of the forest. And this tune is basically played at most Celtic funerals or memorial services, especially the military services.
Thank you, David. That was incredible. Thank you, Gus. And thank you all for coming. Thank all of you who participated in this service.